Hi, welcome back. I'm here today with a card for Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. I'm going to show you how I created this card, Cowboy Up, which features two different stencils and the cowboy silhouette stamp. Let's go ahead and get started. For this card, I am using the Cowboy Up stamp set. I'm using Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'm using Pixie Spray, and I'm also using a stencil that's available through Blue Knight Rubber Stamps, which is the Boot stencil. The stamp set comes with three stamps, small and large, and then it also has the saying, which is the sentiment, cowboy up or go wait in the truck. I have this stencil from my stash, which is exactly like the stencil that's on the display card, so I thought I would use that in my card. And by the way, the display card is laminated, which makes for great storage. You don't have to purchase anything extra. You just let the cling stamp on the laminated card and it's ready to be stored. This is the boot, which is the cowboy boot stencil, and I'm using Pixie Spray. The cowboy boot stencil has the mask and the stencil. And my cardstock again is Bristol Smooth. Pixie Spray is a low-tack temporary adhesive that you can use on your stencils to keep the stencil from shifting around when you are creating with your stencil. So I'm going off camera and spraying some Pixie Spray on my stencil, and I did that away from the camera. I'm laying my stencil with Pixie Spray on it now down on top of my card panel. I'm using PanPastels today to stencil with, and I have a special tool, which is a wand that has a soft sponge on the top of it, and I'm going to be using that to color in my stencil. Taking first the turquoise color Pan Pastel and starting to highlight some of those open sections of the lattice. I'm going to grab the mask from the boot stencil and lay it over top of my panel, lay it over top of the stencil with the lattice. This is going to help me to think about which areas need blended with Pan Pastels and which area I need to avoid because I'm going to actually use the boot stencil next. I'm using turquoise color and then I'm going to go in with green. And I'm speeding this section up for the sake of time. I know it's a little bit hard to see the blue because it is such a light color blue, but I want it to be very subtle. I'm not going for a very vibrant background with this lattice stencil. Okay, now that I've done that, I can pull the lattice stencil off, and you see that's a nice subtle background. This is the boot stencil. I didn't spray it with Pixie Spray because I didn't want it to get Pixie Spray on the area that I had already colored on my panel. I didn't want it to be anything that would take away from what I already blended with Pan Pastels. So I'm just holding it with my hand. And if I lose grip of it, I can always realign it because it is such an open area. It's such a basic shape. It's easy to realign this. I'm using some brown, different colors, brown, to fill in my boot. And you see I kind of knocked the stencil off a little bit there, but that's okay. I'm just going right back in and lining it up and filling it in with red iron oxide color. Any brown color would work. And I'm just doing some touch up here with that sponge so that it looks like the boot is completely filled in. Nothing fancy here. Now I'm going to take my panel, put it inside my Tim Holtz stamping platform, and going to line up my stamp. Now, then I thought I better use some acetate just in case, because I want to make sure that this looks even, that it looks balanced. It is, after all, a cowboy riding a bucking bronco. We don't want it to look as if he's tilting too forward or too backwards. So actually, I did a pretty good job of lining that up. I was happy with it. I put a piece of acetate in there. The acetate helps me to eyeball this, to figure out if I have it in the right position. Once you're done stamping it, on the acetate, you just pull the piece of acetate out and then you could just go ahead and stamp it right onto your image. I'm using Catherine Pooler Archival ink, which is a deep, rich black ink that will not stain your red rubber stamps. Now it will stain your photopolymer stamps, so be careful of that. And I'm using the Blue Knight rubber stamp stamping pad handle, which is a tool that uses a block that has a magnet in it, and then you place a magnetic plate on your stamp pad, and then you have a handle for using with your stamp pad, which is great product to have. If any of you have ever made a card where you dropped your ink pad on the card right when you were almost finished, you'll know you don't want to do that again. So I would highly recommend investing in some of these inexpensive handles. So I have the sentiment, which I lined up with acetate, cowboy up or go wait in the truck. And I just kind of eyeballed where I wanted that on the panel, sort of in the center, so that part of it is inside the boot area and part of it is out on the panel. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. Next, I need to mat it and also spray it with something to set it so that it doesn't smear. And you can use either a Krylon matte sealant, which has really high fumes, and you can't spray that indoors, or you can use hairspray. And everybody asks me what kind of hairspray I use, so I'm going to go real slow when I get to the point where I show you the hairspray that I use. But first, as I was trimming things, I accidentally smudged the tip of my cowboy boot, and I want to make sure that that's filled in. So I just grabbed my sponge and I'm just filling it in. The hairspray I use for setting my PanPastels indoors is called Mega Hold Honey Hairspray OGX. It smells good, which is an added benefit of using it. You can spray it right in your craft room. You don't have to worry about inhaling any fumes like you do with any kind of Krylon sealant. If you do use Krylon sealant, you want to go outside or in a well ventilated space with windows open and ceiling fans on. That's it. It was an easy card to make. I'm trimming it down. I'm going to be mounting it on a piece of black cardstock for my mat, and then I'll adhere that to a A2 card base on white card base. At the end of this video, you'll see where I will have this card as well as another card that I made using this stamp set with a sunset. If you're not familiar with Blue Knight rubber stamps, please see the description box below where you can find a link to their website. They have beautiful red rubber stamps, not only silhouette, but also the type that you can color or with your markers or your pencils. Very versatile stamps and stamps for every occasion. If you're not a subscriber, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and leave a comment if you liked it. Thanks so much, and here are those photos. Have a hopeful day. Bye-bye.